Hi, and welcome back to the AutoSuccess studio. My name is Camille Renner, and I am the Associate Editor of AutoSuccess magazine. Today with me is Ryan Powers, the Vice President of Marketing and Dealer Solutions with SoundFox. Welcome to the studio, Ryan.
Hi, great to be here. Thank you.
Of course, yeah, thanks for coming in. If you'd like to start by just giving our audience a little bit of background about you, how you found yourself in the auto industry, and maybe what your company does?
Yeah, absolutely. So I found myself in the auto industry the same way many of us have found ourselves. It sort of found us. All of my family, aunts and uncles were in the automotive business. I grew up through it. I've done many jobs on the retail side of it and spend most of the back half of my career now on the vendor side. I gravitate towards the marketing and technology portions of the industry. In fact, I sort of got my roots and my formal education is in the marketing space. So I've been on the vendor side for about 15 years now. I really had a calling to the customer life cycle and really staying in touch with the customer base. And I began my journey with SoundFox back in 2011 when we had decided, there's all of this technology and all of these mechanisms in place to really bring the guest to the front door of the dealership and to the showroom for them to shop. But there was nothing really in place just yet that was really taking advantage of the time that was being spent shopping around or sitting in the service lounge or even waiting on hold. And so we really were looking at ways to enhance that guest experience as they were visiting.
That's great and super important, both just for customer retention, making the customers have a great experience, as well as making some money.
Exactly.
So obviously, I'm sure you know as well as we all do, that this is a very unique environment that we are in the auto industry right now.
To say the least.
So what softwares and technologies do you suggest dealerships need to integrate into their marketing plans?
Yeah. So like you said, it's never been so unique in so many different ways. But anytime there's change, I believe that there's opportunity. And so some of the opportunities that I see that a lot of the more progressive and educated dealers are bringing to the table is really getting in touch and in tune with what their guests and customers like, how they like to shop, and how they like to communicate. Not just inside their walls, but all the way from the beginning when they're doing research. And so, I've seen some of the more advanced dealerships really working with their website and getting the workflows that are going on the website tracking, with tracking snippets, whether it's proprietary or otherwise, for the experience to be made all the way through the process of shopping for a car, looking at different things, watching the videos, interacting with the brand that they have, and making sure that they're communicating in such a way that it's relevant for that guest or soon-to-be customer would like to be communicated with, but also with the type of messaging that is really making sense to what they're doing at the time. So if they're looking at a specific vehicle, or maybe they're looking at something that's posted on their website, we want to make sure the communications are matching what they're saying. And so a lot of the technologies that are out there are further enhancing these opportunities when guests are shopping or in a research stage to be able to communicate with them and hopefully bring them into the dealership, because maybe those shoppers online haven't ever even been familiar with the brand or haven't actually stepped foot on the dealership level. And so I would say the next part of that is really understanding that funnel. The funnel that I like to kind of talk about is, you have this funnel of strangers, then visitors, then, what we would consider, a lead or a shopper. And then as you work your way down, you want, a strong customer base and soon to be promoters. And so those are the awareness of having that funnel and making sure that you're looking at it all your channels, including your website and in your showroom, is really is really the determining factor right now.
So with that funnel and all the channels you were discussing that go on throughout the funnel, do you have any specific examples of what successful dealerships are doing right now to reach customers at all those channels?
Yeah, so a lot of them, many dealerships have their business development centers, and many businesses are using, very traditional. If someone clicks, I'd like to get a quote, or I'd like to have someone reach out to me, and those are pretty standard. But if you have a smart enough website that has workflows that are set up for when someone watches a video, or someone plays with the calculator, or maybe they filled a form out that they want some more information, that the business development center is getting queued. If they share their email, again, obviously, I'm a big believer in all the permission-based type of communication. So if they're sharing their email to be communicated with, that those communications and those workflows are being set up in such a way that the communication back to that customer, or soon-to-be customer, is relevant to what they reached out to. And it's not just cast this large net. So getting more specific and relevant in the messaging is always the best practice. And those are some of those examples that I believe are making a bigger difference when engaging with new customers and retaining your current ones.
For sure. And about that consistency of messaging, in different areas of the sales funnel, is the messaging going to change? Is it going to stay pretty consistent based on the customer type? Yeah,
it's a great question. So I think messaging change depends on the funnel, absolutely, and specifically to SoundFox and some of our best practices. When a guest walks into those doors, they've sort of reached the second half of their journey, and so a lot of the mechanisms that are put in place are tailored in such a way that at the end of the day, they'd like them to come and visit the store. Well, we take that a step further by creating that guest experience, so that we're creating the positive buying behavior, and that we're creating the messaging that is allowing those guests to feel comfortable and to feel familiarized with the brand. You know as well as I that you're going to be more apt to do business with someone that you know, like, and trust. And so that sort of steers our wheel with what are the types of messages that we want to play in the showroom, what are the types of messages that we want to play in the service lounge, what are the messages that we want to hear on hold.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear.
On hold, 70% of your future floor traffic originates on hold. And
interesting.
The average, don't quote me on this, but the average hold time, last time I checked in the automotive space, was 2 minutes and 33 seconds, which is a full minute less than the average song. So it makes more sense to play very targeted messages that are geared in such a way to bring guests in and familiarize themselves with the brand and get to know them, because they're community-driven businesses, and that's another part of the branding that we believe, that we want to have, is that you have, the dealership's history, how they got started, what they provide in the community, how they differentiate themselves from the others in the marketplace. And so when you start thinking about messaging from that aspect, as opposed to, just the salesy type, messaging, you can really begin to start relating to the guests in the way that they want to be spoken with. Absolutely.
That's really interesting. I think I would appreciate hearing more informational messaging on a hold message instead of music. Yeah. So I appreciate that.
And it's funny you say that, because you're a lot like a lot of our, we have some statistics that will show that there is certain forms of communication that customers and guests prefer to be, or just a consumer in general, that they prefer to be communicated with, and there's also forms of communication that they don't prefer, and there's a timeliness to the communication, there's a relevance to the communication, and as so long as that you are communicating in such a way that they prefer at a time and a manner that you're doing it, you will in fact get better results with their reaction.
I'd like to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about offerings, values to dealers. I I'd love to hear your thoughts on music streaming and satellite radio within the dealer's operations.
Yeah, so, it's funny, dealers for decades have created environments to make their guests feel more comfortable. The creation of the service lounge or the guest lounge, the nice plus couches, the big flat screen TVs, the coffee maker, there's creature comforts that are involved. This is no different for what we're providing, but the difference that we believe we're also providing here is that we're providing a means to create a positive buying behavior, keep the guests informed of all the things that are happening, and also bringing them information that is relevant to not only the buying experience but also the ownership experience. And so when you talk about regular radio or satellite radio or even just like a basic music streaming service, although those are something to fill the airways, something that creates fills the gap of the lull time. Sometimes they may even be free. Obviously local radio is free, but you might have inappropriate content. You might have competitor content.
Ads, I was thinking that, yeah.
You might have the disc jockey yelling in your ear. There's so many things that aren't providing back to your business. Satellite's just an extension of local radio, and streaming service is literally just basic music. So, when you're thinking about how can we improve your business, the big determining factors are the ability to have your own messages and to have your own branding.
And do dealerships ever have issues with like copyright surrounding music?
Yeah, they do. If you would have asked me 3 or 4 years ago how sensitive the space has gotten with content consumption and making sure that your content it has the rights for commercial consumption, I would have thought you were crazy. It's gotten to such a sensitivity level that the state dealer associations are communicating to their dealer body that if you have something visual on screen or you have something that's playing over your sound system, you need to ensure that those commercial or those rights have been paid for commercial use and consumption. So it's very important to make sure that you are working with a vendor partner that has your back, and that they have a system or a platform in place that is not only purchasing from the correct channels of those, but is also putting through some filtration to make sure that during that time period that music can be played for commercial use, and also that it's family friendly. You want to. You're running a family friendly business. You want to make sure that the content that's being played reaches a G rating.
Absolutely, and just going in on all that regarding to the guest experience. Obviously, you offer a lot of expertise on how to better the guest experience. Right now, we're seeing a lot of digital signage in the industry.
Yes.
Is it being overused? What do you think about that?
I wouldn't say it's being overused. I think there is some evolution of digital signage that is inevitable and that needs to be had. The days of digital signage of just being sort of a glorified PowerPoint presentation and it's just sitting in some random part of a store, I believe that those days are over. I believe that with the changes that we're seeing and how the dealership space will look even 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, there's never been a bigger emphasis on creating that environment and creating that experience. And digital, which is a visual representation of some of that experience, has never had more pressure to make sure that they're creating a visual experience that is engaging and is welcomed from the guests that are sitting there. So, right now, digital isn't always being used the most strategic way. Think of digital as if you're not sitting in front of a screen, staring at the screen with full attention, then how effective is that digital being? And so, making sure that you're looking at your dealership as a whole and figuring out where some of the crowding is happening when your guests are around, or maybe it's you have a really plush guest lounge. You have something that is visual and engaging with them. And same goes with the opposite. So maybe you have a smaller showroom. It's 2 or 3 car showroom, and maybe you're into the southern states and it's really hot out. You probably want to have some sort of greeter board in your showroom, as opposed to something that may not reach the same level of traffic. So. Right. It's just really about thinking about your market, thinking and paying attention to where your guests and customers are around, and what they want to see. I've seen digital signage where they're just playing things that neither you or I would even want to look at. So we certainly offer digital signage. We sort of take that approach where we want to understand the needs of the customer better, which is our dealer body, and also just understand what are the types of pieces that we want to show the guests.
Absolutely. I'm curious to know what the relationship between like a dealer and a representative from your company would be. How does that relationship work? What's the strategy behind organizing all of these different marketing tactics?
Yeah. So when SoundFox partners up with the dealership, we claim and like to say that we are a full service offering as opposed to a self-service offering. I mean, we represent a white glove experience because that's the experience that we want for their guests.
Sure.
And so the idea behind this is that we do all of the heavy lifting. The player is a plug and play media player. It either has visual services or it's audio services, and then we're from the car business, and like I said, I mean, we grew up in the automotive space, and so we understand auto better than most, and so we have our own library of messages that are best practices that are all automotive centric. We work with the dealership to make sure that their branded messages are talking about the things that they want to talk about, and we'll sit and consult with them. We'll provide our best practices that we believe and have been shown to work. And at the end of the day, the value that we're trying to bring is creating additional purchase and upsell opportunities for the dealership. And so when we're creating these messages, at the end of that message, we are encouraging conversations to be had with their sales professional or their service professional. And so the idea behind the difference behind having someone who just sets up a platform and says see you later, that is not the level of service that we're providing, because I grew up believing attitude and effort get you a long way, and that's what we're trying to do here.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Just to kind of wrap it all up in a nice bow, I'd like to kind of talk about all these improvements that dealers can be making. You've been discussing from messaging throughout your entire sales channel very thoughtfully to being thoughtful about your digital signage. What impact could these improvements make on the guest experience as a whole, and now or in the future?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think if you really take the initiative to work with your team and storyboard out, the journey of a stranger becoming a visitor and a visitor becoming a potential customer, showing up at your dealership, going through the know, like, and trust portion of this, and having relevant, timely messaging that the customer wants to know about or the guest wants to know about, it can be a huge impact. Now, at SoundFox, we're not saying that we're going to sell you 100 more cars or service you 50 more ROs, but we are positively influencing buying behavior, and we do have studies across all retail that show that 41% of smart shoppers, which in our world, smart shoppers means that they spent 8 hours or more online and showed up with a specific agenda, 41% will make an additional unplanned purchase after hearing one of our private, branded messages or seeing one of our ads. And so it can be a big impact, and it is so there's a little bit of a mindset shift that needs to happen with some of the dealerships right now that, everything that they're putting in should be a part of the puzzle. You can turn radio on, you can get satellite, you can, play just regular streaming music, but if it's not contributing to the business or it's not an extension of the marketing efforts that you've already spent tens of thousands of dollars a month doing, then why do it at all?
I really like what you just said about it being a puzzle.
Yeah.
Putting in together all the pieces of the guest experience to make it the best.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for joining us
you.
today. Our guest today has been Ryan Powers, the Vice President of Marketing and Dealer Solutions with SoundFox.
Thank you.
See you next time.